We've been reporting on this weekly show and through our daily website on the behind-the-scenes battle taking place at the state capitol on tax cuts in the Arkansas Legislature. There are 7 proposals that have had varying degrees of success, but a real showdown and stalemate occurred last week when a House-backed measure to create a sales tax holiday for back-to-school shoppers was blocked in the Senate, and a Senate measure to provide more used car tax relief stalled in the House. There were some fiery exchanges, and this little publicized rift between the House and the Senate over how to proceed with tax cuts was very publicly exposed. I caught up with Representative Davy Carter, a Republican from Cabot, who chairs the House Revenue and Tax Committee, for an explanation of events and to see how he thinks things might play out. Well, this past week, Representative Carter, a little drama at the state capitol, a bit of a standoff between the House and the Senate on tax cuts. Now, the rhetoric got somewhat heated this past week, so why don't you give me your explanation of what went down?
Well, I think, as you know, we've had numerous tax proposals that have been on the table, both in the House and Senate for some time now, and even some more to come. And I think what you saw was the House just in a position where the House was not ready to make any final decisions on what tax proposals were going to fill up the bucket, so to speak. And there's been a lot of due diligence that's gone into and debate that's gone into how broad they need to be and in what amount. And so I think from the most simplistic standpoint, it's just people just weren't ready to move.
Do you think we have too many tax cuts on the table? I mean, somebody's not going to get theirs accomplished.
Correct, and I'm glad they're all there. I think that wherever we started the session, I think we moved somewhere beyond that. I think there will be some additional tax cuts in addition to the grocery tax, and I'm glad all the proposals are there. I mean, I think the people of Arkansas expect us to this body to make the right decisions on which tax cuts need to be implemented. And I think from the House perspective, there's the line of thought is, and we'd like to see, potentially some more broad-based, long-term, real tax reform than some of the other proposals. But as we've said, I've said consistently over the last several weeks, there are a lot of good ideas out there, and ultimately it's just a matter of priority and what's going to be the most beneficial for the entire state. And I think that again, the bottom line yesterday was that the House was not ready to make that decision on which one of those or individual bills or on a collective basis that which ones they needed to be. So I think it was just a matter of they just weren't ready.
Well, tell me how this process is going to work from your perspective for whittling down these tax cut proposals. As you said, it's going to be all about priorities. So do you and someone from the Senate end kind of get together and build this consensus and set these priorities?
Well, I think the first thing that has to be done is how much. And how much can responsibly be cut in taxes and trying to address all the needs in the governor's budget proposal and of course to accommodate the balanced budget requirements. So first and foremost is there has to be a determination on what is the proper amount of tax cuts that needs to be implemented and to remain responsible and to be effective. So having said that, the second part of that equation is once that amount is determined is what are the most effective ways to utilize those dollars in a sense of tax cuts. And I think that there are a lot of good ideas. The House has passed several measures already that are waiting their day in the Senate, and the Senate has done the same. And I think what you saw yesterday was just, simply put, as a part of the process that I hope will facilitate, some compromise on ultimately what gets enacted.
Well, you talked about how much can be responsibly cut from the state budget. You guys have basically taken the governor's $130 million in growth revenue from his balanced budget proposal, and you're using that. I'd say somewhere between $60 and $70 million has kind of been the political football you guys have considered for this full realm of potential tax cuts. What's the high ceiling in your book, and how far do you think you can go?
I think that's certainly at the high end. I mean, I don't think there's any real effort ongoing to decrease, to go anything beyond, we're certainly going to fund the base and an adequacy request on K-12, and that's another $55 million. We are still in the process of evaluating the prison reform bill. If that gets enacted, there's going to be some costs there. A lot of things that that are still we haven't addressed yet. But I think maybe that's the high end. I think from the low end, I think you're looking at 30 to $40 million in tax relief. And there's more than that on the table today, as you said. And back to the other previous question, it's just a matter of once that amount is determined, what makes sense for Arkansas and how we use up those dollars.
Representative Carter, you and Senator Dismang have filed a series of shell bills that at this point would adjust the personal income tax brackets in Arkansas. Can you tell me what you're waiting on, and what do you want to accomplish with those bills?
Senator Dismang and I did file two separate bills. He's co-sponsor on my House bill, and I am a co-sponsor on his Senate bill. The idea that we are working on is to take a real close look and evaluate on a personal income level the brackets that we use. In Arkansas, for example, you're in the highest tax bracket at $32,700 and some change. That's pretty close. From a big picture standpoint, I think from a difference to be classified as on a federal level is in poverty to being in the highest tax bracket is $14,000 or $15,000. So we're waiting on some numbers from DF&A. Jonathan's bill was separated into several individual bills where we can see the impact as we move and try to tweak the brackets, and ultimately we will try to back into what's a reasonable amount of impact into the big bill that we have filed in the House.
So what are you trying to do long term with this proposal? What's your goal? What's your aim? If you could kind of wave a magic wand, what would you want to accomplish?
To me, and I don't want to speak for Jonathan, but I know he feels the same way I do, and a lot of other members. It's about being competitive, being responsible, and creating jobs, and to create an environment in Arkansas that facilitates commerce and growth. You look at states like Florida, where there's no personal income tax, and the governor there, even during this current legislative session, is pushing for zero corporate income tax rate. Well, if you're a company or you're somebody who's employed by those companies, you're certainly going to take those factors into consideration. So long term, we're looking for broad-based tax reform that simply puts Arkansas at a competitive advantage on at least some of the surrounding states. And I've said several times, you travel around the country and we've all done it, and we get these jokes sometimes about Arkansas. Well, the reality is that we've lived within our means, we've taken care of business, and we're in much better of shape than a lot of states around the country. And at least from my view, instead of keeping on with the status quo, let's see how we take advantage of our position where we are in the United States, and let's leap forward exponentially as we compared to our sister states. So broad-based, long-term, that makes us competitive. It creates a good working business climate.
Do you think that this tax reform effort between you and Senator Dismang could ultimately be the compromise legislation in this tax cut debate, the one that everybody could kind of get behind if all of these nickel and dime tax cut proposals don't find some sort of consensus?
I hope. I don't know. I think that a lot of that is going to depend on what the impact numbers are. We're going to be responsible about what we do. I mean, the governor is right when he says we need to be responsible. We're looking at these tax cuts. We're going to be responsible. So a lot of that is going to depend on what the impact is. Can we do it all this time? Don't know. Can we start talking about it this session? Work towards that in future sessions? Maybe. I look at what Governor Beebe has done with the grocery tax. I mean, it's he's handled it brilliantly. I mean, he says we're going to do this from over a period of time, and we're going to take a measured approach. Do you use that methodology towards a broader income tax reform? I mean, it makes sense to do that. Today, as I sit here, I just don't have the numbers or the data to comment on it.